both of our bills are identical, and just to give a real brief overview, this is the parity for oral chemotherapy treatments bill. It's a very short bill, about 14, 15 lines. Essentially it says that if you were going to provide chemotherapy coverage, that you have to provide oral and intravenous chemotherapy coverage to the same cost to the consumer. So that's basically what we're doing. It will help provide truth in advertising, of course, to the consumers that feel that they have chemotherapy coverage, that find out that one is way more expensive than the other in some cases, and hopefully provide more access to these treatments for our constituents.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senator Munzlinger from 1850. Having served on your committee for, seems like a number of years, it also seems like a number of years we've actually heard this bill in committee. And there's not a one of us that doesn't have a family member or know somebody who suffered through excruciating pain and suffering with cancer. And in my opinion, this bill not only helps those with cancer, we all know that the family members of those with cancer suffer also. And when you can use the oral treatment, I think that is something that is very, very good, can be. And with the new technologies we have being developed, I think oral treatments are something that we all have to look forward to fight this terrible disease. Like I say, I think members of the committee have heard this bill before, and I won't belabor that, but I think we'll both be ready to answer any questions you may have.
Very good. Do we have any questions of the senators from the committee? So I just had one. So we're not mandating any new coverage. We're saying if you currently offer coverage,
Right.
then you need to do that. Okay. So I wanted to step back that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions. One, there's no question for people that live in rural Missouri, I want to say, I guess. Just convenience of being able to take chemo could mean as much as driving 30 minutes, an hour to get somewhere to be able to take treatment for that. And I think that is a real need in rural areas. However, you know the obstacles of this every year that we go through all this. We have for several years, both you guys as a sponsor. I know Kansas did similar language, and you want to speak on that? I just know that that's out there, and I know they did get it passed through the legislative process.
I believe there's 27 states. Kansas is one, Oklahoma is another one. You know, the list goes on. More are going to this form. Like I say, with new technologies, the oral treatments are turning out to be just as good as the injectables, while yet providing you the opportunity to stay at home. And it's a good thing that you mentioned the rural areas. Like I say, I've heard this bill before. And really, it probably has more play in the rural area, where in my area, some people would have to drive 60 or 70 miles to get to a cancer treatment center. That's not just that one person. That is that person plus a family member, because generally they're very ill when they're on the way back from getting that injectable treatment. So it would save time, it saves stress on not only the person with the terrible disease, but also the family members. That was a good point, Senator. I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
And then we have heard this, you're right, we've heard this bill several years. And one of the arguments that has been articulated that I think has probably kept it from passing in the past is the difference of your pharmacy benefit versus your medical benefit. Now, I noticed this year on Missouri Consolidated's plan, that's for state employees, all 60-some thousand, that this is the first year that they've allowed your prescription copay amount to apply to your medical benefit deductible and your high deductible plan. Has that come into the conversation at all of, well, okay, yeah, you might have a higher out-of-pocket expense on your prescription, but at least it counts towards your deductible, so at some point then you won't have that, whereas they used to say, well, yeah, you'd have to pay it every single time, it doesn't count. And how is the changes in the move towards high deductible plans? Is that, have you had conversations about that with people, or is it so new that it's not there?
I don't know that that's really been a big part of the conversation.
Okay, all right.
I'm like the Senator Silvey here, that hasn't been a big part of it. Our intention is to bring it into parity. I think that would be a good step. I mean, if you're paying money for a treatment, it should be counted somewhere. But, you know, when you go into a clinic for an injectable, you pay for the door you walk through, you pay for the receptionist, you pay for the cotton swab, you pay for the needle, you pay for everything there. Whereas if you just take the oral treatment, you go, you pick it up, you go home, you take it. Now, you still have to go back to the doctor for checkups and things like that, but I think there's some savings there by not having to go to the actual center.
Very good. Okay, any other questions before we call witnesses? Okay, by a show of hands, how many people would like to testify in favor of this bill? Looks like how many would like to testify in opposition? All right, well, this is going to go a little bit quicker than I planned.
Mr. Chairman, if you would indulge, I would like to ask Ross Nichols. to
Sure, yeah,
testify.
I wondered for timing testimony.